And welcome to the Daily Space Weather Show. As space weather continues, I guess it's going on all the time. Well, there is once again an increased solar wind speed going on, a coronal hole high-speed stream, and a little bit of a solar uptick in the past 24 hours. We'll tell you all about it and lots more here at the you-know-what news network, least busted name in news. And that's the past 24 hours. We're looking at some LEET imagery here from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Two different species of ionized iron featured there, 171 plus 335 angstroms. And you can see one coronal mass ejection jumping off from the bottom of your screen there. We'll let you know later in the video if that one's earthly directed. In the meantime, let us know in the comments what you think. Here's a closer view of that active region setting in the northwest. There's the equatorial view. Once again, you'll see that CME jumping off on your screen right. Most active sunspot right in the middle of the Earth-facing solar disk in the past 24 hours, right there and just above the equator there. Our most active flare-producing sunspot. And before we get into any of that stuff, like coronal holes and so on, take a moment to visit the links below the video. One of the links you'll find is to the merch shop. If you haven't seen it before, check it out. You'll find the items there in order of best selling, I believe, is how we have the link currently construed. Today's featured product is the Galactic Federation Special Forces motto, which is Universum Liberate. So, to quote Geddy Lee of Rush, if I could wave my magic wand, I'd set everybody free, and if that's too reckless, I'm terribly sorry. Slightly different than other organizations' Special Forces model, the Galactic Federation Special Forces mission is to free everyone, apparently, because Universum Liberate. Convince your friends and foes that you're in the Illuminati. But now, I'm not wearing it today. I'm wearing something slightly different. A bunch of terminology that will remain unstated in this video. Yeah, words that shall not be said. Yeah, it's... Yeah, so anyway, Universum Liberate. Yes, free everybody's speech as well. By the way, if you want to join the Smash team, the value is the gold annual paid-up subscription. So, you want additional content? We just sent out some today to a gold level only. Yes, gold Smash Team level only. Got a post today, so just log into your level and click posts. There's also a bronze and a silver level, and let's move on. By the way, thanks to our new Twitter followers, we've got exactly -1 new Twitter followers. Yes, we've gone all the way from 494 to 493, folks. So, woo! So just blowing up on social media. Cheers. Thanks for eliminating censorship, Elon. You done did a fine job. A fine job, if I do say so myself. Sub 500 followers on Twitter. Over 4+ years. 22,000 tweets and daily original content. Cheers. Today's featured product on the Amazon shop is the cutting board that I use personally. Check it out. There it is on the Instagram page. The pork roast that I made just 2 days ago. Featured on Instagram along with that indeed lovely cutting board. It's made out of bamboo, if you're wondering. 1-inch thick bamboo with juice grooves. Yes. Good times, good times. Amazon.com/shop/Smashomash. It's not even $27, folks. So you could find things maybe even as tasty as that on your cutting board. Amazon.com/shop/Smashomash. In our kitchen items list, you can also find a link to the Hemp Lucid shop. This is another paid affiliate, by the way. These are indeed all paid affiliates. So, cheers. If you're unable or unwilling to open your cobweb-encrusted wallet, press the like button. And do your soul a favor. If you're new to the channel, do your subscription fee to channel and press subscribe. Again, visit the links below the video. Also, if you're just on hemplucid.com, you don't want to use our link, use the promo code SMASHOMASH10 to save 10%. So if you're picking up perhaps an organic full-spectrum CBD hemp seed oil suspension, save $4.29 by entering the promo code SMASHOMASH10 on your hemplucid.com order. You can find links on our homepage to our Hemp Lucid shop. Again, you can also use the promo code SMASHOMASH10 to give the channel credit. And, of course, you can find all of those links on our homepage at SmashoMash.com. We launched a massive web ring to benefit people just like you. And we send out email alerts when videos just like this come out. Sometimes even for disaster alerts, and we almost did it today, but not quite. We'll get to it. First, how about what's going on in terms of sunspots? So we've had a little uptick in the sunspot number since yesterday. But for the most part, things have been rather stable. The main activity is coming from this group up in the northern hemisphere that's just above the equator and just recently crossed into the western sector. So it has been the most flare-producing sunspot. It has grown a little bit in the past 24 hours, and it looks like the volcano report is now back. So let's cover volcanoes. And guess what? Iceland continues to expand, having had over 900 earthquakes in the past, over 1,200 earthquakes in the past 24 hours at the Reykjanes Peninsula. So perhaps a major eruption is imminent at Iceland. Abiko is also exploding, producing an 8,200-foot plume of volcanic ash. It's a flight level 082. Mount Mayon producing a unknown volcanic ash plume there over Luzon Island, Philippines. Luatolo exploding, 6,000-foot ash plume. 14,000-foot ash plume from Semeru. Dacono exploding. Unknown volcanic ash cloud there. It looks like it's getting 1,000 meters away from the caldera. Please don't fly your home-built ultralight aircraft over Dacono. Popocatépetl exploding. 21,000-foot ash plume over central Mexico. Fuego producing a 16,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Nevado del Ruiz, no volcanic ash emissions. Sangay is exploding. 20,000-foot ash plume over Ecuador and a sporadic puff from Sabancaya. Next, seismic activity. And yeah, some significant quakes going on, folks. Check it out. A 7.1 struck the Bande Sea. So there's a location of that. In between Australia and Indonesia, essentially. Between Papua New Guinea and Indonesia. A 7.1. Also, interestingly enough, a 5.1 struck Texas. So not every day you see that. We'll cover those both here in a minute. These are the quakes of a 5 and greater magnitude for the past 24 hours. So first there was a foreshock in the Bande Sea at 4:52, and then 1 minute later, Kablooey, a 7.1. And then, of course, lots of aftershocks in that area. And then Russia had a 5.6. Actually closer to Japan than to Russia. And then the Texas Colson Draw had a 5.2. I stand corrected. Not a 5.1, a 5.2. And no foreshocks there. So just remember, folks, any earthquake can be a foreshock and then large aftershock in the Bande Sea. New Zealand gets a 5.0, a 5.2 rather, at 13:06 Universal Time. Then New Zealand gets a 5.2. And then more activity in the Bande Sea. So those are all aftershocks. And let's get back to space before we get to the radio flux. How about if we take a look at some more solar imagery? Oh, nope, it's time for the radio flux. I stand corrected. So the current 10.7 is 146. 146 solar flux units is the current F107, as it's known, the 10.7 centimeter radial flux. So there you go. That's the past 1 year. As we get closer and closer, within 1 year now, folks, of solar maximum likely, looks like it's going to be a significantly shorter solar sunspot cycle, which, by the way, tends to be correlated with stronger sunspot cycles, not weaker ones. Anyway, there's a Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. It looks like NOAA has not noticed the CMEs that we reported the past 2 days, so all right. I'm cool with it. No big deal. So we are expecting 2 CME impacts. See yesterday's daily space weather video, and also perhaps Mondays. I don't know. If you want the CME forecasts, then make sure you view those videos. So yeah, we expect more space weather to come in rapid succession. Following the ramping down of this current coronal hole high-speed stream. Looks like NOAA has not noticed that. So, all right, that's okay. Next, the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. So let's cut back to the. There we go. There's the full view. And we are seeing a subsiding coronal hole high-speed stream. So this will probably get slower and slower over the coming days, followed by a couple of CME impacts. Yes, at least 2 in the coming days. So that's what's been going on the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. The former depicted magnetohydrodynamic pressure. This depicts magnetic flux density at ground level. And again, it does look like things are subsiding here following quite a high-speed coronal hole wind. It is still elevated for sure, and we are in geomagnetic unrest conditions after all. KP4 is the current situation. Not a super strong geomagnetic storm, but heightened activity. So if the magnetic fields suddenly change, and they can, then you could expect additional fireworks. So here's the ACE. And like I said, we've got over 720 kilometers per second showing up here recently. 735 is the current solar wind from the ACE. From the Discover, much slower there, below 500 kilometers a second. So it looks like the Discover is already in much slower solar wind conditions, with a density of about 5 3/4 protons per cubic centimeter. So the ACE data is a little behind, so let's just stick with the Discover. Under 500 kilometers a second for the speed, and under 6 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density. Next are GOES magnetometers. Pretty smooth here. And let's move on. There we go. There's our line of sight ecliptic plane field plot. And let's actually blow that up to full size. So there you go. That's the North Pole sector in which Earth's currently lying here, but it's a very short North Pole sector. We've got more South Pole magnetism coming within about 48 hours, it looks like. So we'll have a rapid sector boundary crossing. We'll make it 2 in a matter of only 3 days or so. So sector boundary crossing, folks. Earth now in a North Pole oriented environment. So next we'll go to coronal holes. Did I fail to? There we go. Next, coronal holes, folks. Coronal holes. And oh, what am I doing? We've got more gong imagery first. There's our line of sight field plot. Here is our ecliptic plane field plot from the same line of sight perspective. So another sector boundary crossing here less than 2 days out. And here's our line of sight coronal hole plot. So before we cut to the SDO 211 angstroms, we've got mostly South Pole coronal holes, actually, despite being in a small North Pole current sheet. It's all associated with this coronal hole in the southeast. So this coronal hole system here is north, and all the rest of this is south. So a little tiny current sheet here, a little tiny area of North Pole magnetism. Earth will soon be back into a South Pole environment. I thought I had a close-up. Let me check. And there it is. There's the close-up. Again, the current high-speed solar wind is from this coronal hole over here, which is now in a setting mode on the west. We don't expect anything even slightly similar to this from this North Pole coronal hole. And let's talk sunspots. So sunspots have ramped up a little bit since yesterday. Here is the Royal Observatory of Belgium, showing sunspot number here at about 115. 115 sunspots currently, according to the ROB. And don't forget, folks, to say "shut up that mutt" whenever you get a chance. Sound like a villain in an action movie by saying "shut up that mutt." Say it aloud, I dare you. You'll feel like a tough guy, like a real tough guy. Shut up that mutt. Go ahead, you can do it. Anyway, yeah, like about 115 sunspots is the current situation. And here is our flare probability monitor and scoreboard. And what do you got? Well, the most likely sunspot to produce a large flare remains 3478. So also 3479 does have some chance, as it is right on the limb. And here are sunspots from... There we go, that's better. Wait, that's worse. How can that... There we go, that's better. So there are sunspots. That's SDO 131 angstroms and continuum. Let's drop the 131 angstroms ionized iron wavelength. There's just the continuum. And if you'd like some close-ups of that active sunspot group, well, we've got that covered too. By the way, the one down at the bottom there, it looks like a penny farthing. You know, one of those big front wheel bikes. Look at that. It looks just like a penny farthing. That's insane. So, I did not do that intentionally, by the way. That was completely spontaneous. And here are the magnetic fields. And even the magnetic fields look a bit like a penny farthing. That's a lot of South Pole magnetism down there. So, but of course, the really exciting place is that sunspot that's north of the Earth scale in this image. This clip, as it is. And we'll show one more run here from the SDO continuum. Nice. Anyway, next we've got energetic particles and flares. But before we do that, a quick note about cosmic rays. Because I hear people talking nonsense about cosmic rays on the internet. So let's talk cosmic rays for a brief moment. For all the people out there who are listening to folks who don't understand basic physics. Things like your disaster planning and, oh no, the doomsday is here brigade. To people that are in those cults, who keep believing this nonsense that energy from space is spookily increasing, energy from space is not spookily increasing. Okay? And here's some facts for you. I'm gonna draw on a graph. Let's draw on a graph so that people understand what I'm talking about. So here's where cosmic rays are currently. See this dotted line? Let's follow this dotted line. When's the last time cosmic rays were that low? What's that? 2004. Cosmic rays are at their lowest level since 2004. So I showed you the graphic. Deal with it. Spooky energy from space is not increasing. Cosmic ray flux is the lowest it's been in nearly 20 years. So there's that. The ghost proton flux is at baseline levels. No spikes in that. So let's move on to the X-ray flux. And only C-class intensifications have occurred over the past 24 hours, and indeed the past 3 days. Not even a single M-class event. Oh my God. Are you spooked of that? I'm spooked. Jeez, oh whiz, folks. I'm so spooked that there haven't been sufficient level solar flaring. Oh my God, I'm so spooked. I'm convinced that it's a grand solar minimum because I have a tendency to believe utter nonsense and tripe on the internet without doing any actual research on anything. Part of my sarcasm. So anyway, here are some wavelengths that are good through which to view flares. The 94 plus 131 angstroms, namely 2 specific species of ionized iron's extreme ultraviolet emissions from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. These wavelengths are specifically designed through which to view solar flares. So let's take a closer look, shall we? Shall we? All right. Here's an extreme close-up. A series of C-class solar flares. And let's move on to a star chart. I want to know what's going on overhead, right? So that's why I use a star chart. Like this one from skyandtelescope.org. If I press the Now button after putting in my location, there we go. That's what's going on over my head. Saturn's up there. Also Deneb and Vega. Don't forget Altair. There's Altair. See, that's the summer triangle, folks. You see that? Altair, Vega, and Deneb, the summer triangle. Then you've got Jupiter. Also a few hours above the horizon. Next. How about a solar system forecast? What do you say? Just kidding, folks. It's a space weather dictatorship. Ha 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 ha. Remember, folks, 2 things. Never blame a conspiracy for that which is more easily blamed on ignorance and stupidity. And never pass up the opportunity to talk about ignorance and stupidity. Anyway, here's a 1-week forecast of the solar system. And we will have a tiny sliver of a moon on the 15th. We will have a crescent waxing by that date. Here's our astronomy photo of the day. And it's just spectacular. I mean, if you don't know what that is, it's the Perseus galaxy cluster. And that is just, okay, here comes a, well, you want to see that closer? Well, at the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News, we give credit where credit is due. And this credit goes to We'll get to it. So there it is, the Perseus cluster. Practically every point of light you see here is a galaxy. Actually, I think there are quite a few stars in there as well. But anyway, it's in the constellation Perseus, and a lot of those are galaxies, at least. Lots and lots of obvious galaxies in the Perseus cluster. And this is credited to the ESA, the European Space Administration. And Euclid, the Euclid mission. Yes. Yes. So yeah, here are some of the larger elliptical galaxies. Also some spiral galaxies in the mix there. Some edge-on ones. Some merging galaxy features. Some great views of an equatorial plane of a two-arm spiral like this one right here. Anyway, it's about time to move on from the astronomy photo of the day and get to some more real space weather. Coronal mass ejections. So yeah, CMEs. They're what's next. So first we'll look at George Mason University's images from yesterday. Since our videos typically are being produced with about 2 hours left in the day, we show yesterday plus today. So there is... That's November 7th to date. And again, watch yesterday's daily space weather video if you want to see the forecasts. Here are today's coronagraphs. And we do see at least one event there out of the northwest, which we actually showed you the origin of that earlier. We'll show it again here in a minute. First, let's take a look at the C3 as well. And basically what we're showing you here is that that is not earthly directed. So slowing that down. Nothing major since. There's that CME out of the west. No indication that it has any earthly directed components. It's practically behind the limb in the first place. So that's not anything likely to cause any space weather, unlike what we covered yesterday and Monday. We'll also show stereo A. There's a stereo A raw coronagraph on the left and the difference imagery on the right. We've got a little bit of a lack of synchronization there. Some missing data on one of those. Maybe even both. Nope, missing data on stereo A's raw coronagraph. Yes, on both actually. But anyway, there's that CME. Let's cover it from the perspective of SOHO LASCO C3 and C2 and SDO 193 angstroms. So that's the past 24 hours. Let's get a little closer. You might see that CME popping off there from the northwest. We do have some more active regions rising in the east. You can see their plasma plumes over there on the left. Here's a little closer view. We've added 304 angstroms here as we drop the LASCO C3. And yeah, so it looks like 3 more active regions about to rise here on the east. Very high likelihood of additional solar flares from the northwest. Let's take a quick secondary tour here. We've got quite a few plasma filaments once again in place. There's 304 plus 193 angstroms from SDO. And again, we do have one active sunspot there, just leaving the Earth-facing section of the disk, moving into the western longitudes. So here's a little closer view of that most active sunspot, most likely place to see a large flare moving forward, along with the northwestern limb. And here's your extreme close-up for all of you space weather, solar heliophysical behemoths. There's definitely some berserk amounts of data right there. And let's move on to bonus features. Yes, bonus features. But first, filaments. So here's the Big Bear Observatory, and you can see a bunch of dark absorption features here. Those are plasma filaments that are massive quantities of material that are suspended by magnetic fields defying gravity. Anyone can become a coronal mass ejection. Will it end civilization? No. The answer is no. Not likely, not probably not, but just no. It's not going to end civilization. Those filaments, they might make some cool lights in the sky, though. Let's fingers crossed for that. Here are some more views from Big Bear Observatory. And again, lots of filaments. You could name them after living people if you like by following us over on Twitter and typing in the hashtag #NameThatFilament. Name filaments after your friends, your foes, or even yourself at x.com/smashomash. Here come bonus features, but first, the past about 3 hours from the GOES 16 SUVI. And blasting right into bonus features, here we go. First is satellite charging hazards. Do we have any? Well, not so much. It's surface charging only. And so that's not going to damage any satellites, but it might cause some communications breakdowns. So some minor surface charging hazards there for satellites around places like East Africa, India, Saudi Arabia, and Southeast Asia. The GOES electron flux here, it looks like the 18 is in warning levels and the 16 not so much. It's just about noon time, local time for the GOES 18 though, so that's when its electron flux is going to be the highest. It'll have the most ions when the sun is shining right on it. Next, the 1 year graph, there you go. That's the 1 year graph, the electron flux, the relativistic electrons from Solon.info. And there's the forecast model, NOAA expecting a big uptick. Yeah, I wouldn't tend to disagree, except we may have some big variations in there when we have a couple of coronal mass ejection impacts in the coming couple of days. So again, if you didn't hear about those, then watch the previous videos. That's why we cover it every day. So yeah, there you go. There's the forecast model. And we are expecting a pretty big uptick in electron flux. We'll also show the area where it's measured, the F layer. So here it is. There's the F layer of the ionosphere. That is depicting megahertz, the vibrational frequency of said ionosphere. And things are simmering down, if you must know. If you must know. Things are simmering down. Like I said earlier in the video, the coronal hole high-speed stream is subsiding. Here's the anomaly-gram, anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. So that's a thing. And that is just about a wrap, by the way. It's time to do meteorology. A couple more things to cover first. There's the latest image, 2315. Wow, we're running super late. 2315. Here is the whole atmosphere model, the global ionosphere nowcast. Total electron content as well as maximum usable frequency. Yes, both. For radio and GPS operators alike. We've also got total electron content. There's the forecast. And I don't like it. I don't like it. It looks like erroneous data. I dislike it greatly. It looks completely jacked. However, total electron content anomaly over the North America looks just fine. So there's that. I'm okay with that. We do have some high electron content anomalies over the western portion of the U.S. Looks legit, though. unlike the world map, which looks jacked up. It looks busted. Anyway, here's the latest imagery. It's SDO continuum along with SDO magnetogram. There's the full disk rock back. Looks like we may have some new sunspots forming up here in the northern hemisphere, kind of far up north. As you can see, some there and some other stuff going on here. So a little uptick since yesterday. We might see that continue. I don't know. We might see it subside. I don't need to forecast it. I'm over it. Anyway, moving on to meteorology, because we've got some interesting weather here over South America. So first, South America. So there's a huge pressure gradient here. A couple of pressure gradients, actually. You've got high pressure, and you've got low pressure. And then you've got relative high pressure, and you've got an anticyclonic looking system here, which actually isn't really that anticyclonic, but it's kind of interesting anyway. Anyway, that's the world's pressure map. That's the mean sea level pressure. And the world's lowest pressure is currently in the Southern Ocean, it looks like. Someplace down here, an interesting feature there. 936 hectopascals. Dag, that's pretty low. Anyway, switching to our normally scheduled meteorology stuff, here are the surface winds of the east. Shout out to our viewers from the east side. And here are the jet streams from the east side. Here's the central side. 250 hectopascal winds, otherwise known as the jet stream. Here are the surface winds. Surface winds of the western world right there, and these, like sands through the hourglass of time, are the jet streams of your lives. Next, and here's what we're talking about over South America. Look at that counterclockwise rotating system. It might look like an anticyclone, but it's being a little bit deceptive there because of that low pressure to the east of the Andes. We'll show a more detailed view here. This is clouds and fog over the Americas. And there is the South American view. So check it out. There is a counterclockwise rotation going on here, but it's multiple different systems in play at once. High pressure near the sea, low pressure to the east of the mountains, and then higher pressure over the main continent. And so that's what's causing that air to flow in that way that it's doing now. It might look a little weird, but a little bit of atmospheric physics goes a long way in understanding why the weather does what it does. So here, once again, we're on a pressure map, and let's switch to a precipitation type map. Where the heck is it? Precipitation type. What's up with that? Seriously? There it is, precipitation type. Check it out, it's snowing in Colorado despite all the hot air that's constantly blowing out of that state. Who would have thunk? Anyway, here's weather.gov. We'll scroll down and show you the key. That's where the warnings are. Weather.gov if you need to get yours. And here is the GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast. So there you go. There's snow and ice coming to places. View the map. That's why we put it on the screen. Next, there's what in the next temperature anomaly in degrees Celsius for the 72-hour GFS model. That's where temperatures will be. Next, the jet stream over the U.S. That's what's going on with the jet stream. 72-hour GFS jet stream forecast. Next, lightning. And that is the lightning scenario at the moment for the past about 10 hours. And here is the real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. Check it out. We got some Great Lakes lightning going on here. Over Lake Michigan and around Grand Rapids. A little bit of thunderstorm activity kicking off there in the Great Lakes states. By the way, press the like button. If you do not, you will be found, and you will rue the day that you failed to press the like button. If you're unable or unwilling to open your cobweb-encrusted wallet and help out the channel financially, then press like or else. We're only the world's most comprehensive daily space weather content and most detailed solar imagery. I don't know why anybody would want that. Who would want accurate and timely forecasts about what's going on in space weather? I can't imagine why anybody would want something like that. I mean, people are talking about, colonizing the moon and talking about colonizing Mars and stuff. I don't know why they'd want additional space weather info or anything. I don't know. It's silly me. Anyway, we'll close out the video and the channel by... Oh, wait. Don't close the channel? Okay. We'll keep the channel going. We'll close out the video with the latest U.S. Doppler radar map. So first of all, there's some precipitation showing up there at Anchorage. We're going to focus on the lower 48. We'll also show clouds and fog. There is clouds and fog. Low clouds over the North Atlantic, and there is the water vapor map. It looks like a clear night over Arkansas. And yes, people see red aurora in Arkansas 10 years ago. That's a thing. Here's a recap, U.S. Doppler radar, clouds and fog. And there is the water vapor map. And here is me signing off and saying to you, Universum Liberate, may that solar wind be at your back. I'm going back to the bunker again. I heard a bird, haven't encouraged me to climb in.